Thanks, Elizabeth. Welcome, everyone, from my side. I'm just going to give you some insights on how we handle reputation management within the BMW Group. And it's not rocket science, and actually, it's work in progress. First of all, we have three great, incredible brands. The role of the BMW Group is actually to be the custodian of those brands and also to groom those brands worldwide. So let's move on. This chart, I think, is everyone knows this. You're all experiencing this. These are the challenges we are facing as an automobile company. But I imagine this is also affecting all of you here in this room in the companies you are working for. These are the challenges. These are the things that we have to deal with. One thing that's missing on this chart is digitalization. We know and we are sure that everything that will be digital will actually turn to be digital. So we have to get ready for that. Two things we're very lucky at BMW. In 2007, the company put forward a very clear strategy to 2020. So with that in mind, we actually have a clear vision, which every employee, and we know that from actually company surveys, where about 83% say they can actually tell a new employee where our company is going till 2020. We want to be a leading provider of premium products and premium services for individual mobility. I realize it's a mouthful, but at the same time, it gets quite clear we're not just a manufacturer anymore. We're not just going to manufacture vehicles. We're going to go beyond that. What was also important at that time in 2007, we at the communication team said the company needed to have a clear profile. The company versus the brand. We need to be very careful because BMW Group is the company, and I know for outsiders, it's basically BMW. But there is a company behind each of these brands, and we call ourselves the BMW Group. We actually decided to be a decent corporate citizen, you have to take on responsibility at various levels within society. I think everyone in this room would agree with me. And through time and energy, you actually build up trust. And after that, you gain success. So I'm going to give you some insights that all sounds generic, but behind each of these words are cleared attributes and characteristics for each of them, and we measure them every year in certain markets. We'll get to that later. This is also sustainability. Sustainability, I think, is a buzzword sometimes. Unfortunately, it is sometimes been hijacked. Journalists in Germany consider sustainability not only for environmental friendliness. Actually, it means a lot more. It means longevity, long-term thinking. And this is an issue that we'll talk later on with some questions if you have, how we deal with stakeholders and other target groups to put forward our message on sustainability. I don't want to go into too much detail. These charts are available, I'm assuming, for you later on. Also, hard KPIs. Your company needs these, but you also need them for the communications. We have clear KPIs that we put forward in 2007, and we've actually been meeting those KPIs year on year for the last 8 years. And we plan on doing the same moving forward. These are tough KPIs. If you look at the return on our sales, which is known as EBIT, in the automobile segment of 8 to 10%. If you know anything about the industry, that's a tough call to do every single year. So this is some of the things that we also believe is premium. Let's not forget, as communicators, the soft KPIs. You need to have clear soft KPIs. But another thing we've also learned, and this is what we'll talk about a little bit later, you have to be able to measure them. You have to find a methodology that is accepted outside the company and with a benchmark. If you don't do that, you're not going to have the credibility outside, and you're not going to have the credibility inside. We actually have 3 areas that we actually take care of. One is just general corporate citizenship, where you actually have donations or also corporate volunteering. Fortunately, we have 2 foundations, one in Germany and one worldwide. We are leveraging them moving forward. We will leverage them again. Each of them has a certain focus area. The one, for example, in Germany is actually dealing with young adults, one of the things that they do, who are not able to get a decent job because they lack education. So they are working to help them to find work, to train them, to become part of society. It's called in German Jobling. The Quant BMW Foundation is a broader foundation working worldwide with various universities and various institutes. And at the same time, we're also working with a lot of universities around the world, also with cooperations, et cetera. I will talk to you a bit about that later. This is just the structure we have. Seems like any other corporate structure, but I think there's something else that's really important. And the next slide will tell you that. My personal opinion is if you're working for a company like BMW, we are engineer-driven. Engineers are process-driven. My piece of advice to anyone in this room, know how your company ticks, thinks, what's their mindset. If you cannot follow their mindset, then you're not going to convince them of your role as a communicator within the company. What I'm saying here is, for example, we began to actually discuss our whole processes within the communications as if we were engineers. And I will show you later on what we have done. So the first step we did is we centralized the communication division completely. All the communicators throughout the world are running into my department. So it used to be a dotted line principle. I can only tell you, before it was a dotted line principle, you have a lot of convincing, arm twisting to do around the world. We centralized everyone. Of course, they stayed locally where they were. It had one advantage for me. We could then have one voice, one message, both ways, moving forward. The other thing was, when we had global issues, we were able to respond as quickly as possible because I didn't have to go through 2 or 3 different layers of people or dotted lines to get to the right person. Then, this is important, measuring. We standardize all measuring in the major markets. We began to realize that everyone was using an outsource or they had outsourced or they were being measured in different ways in different countries. So the service provider is now one service provider. We do that from centrally. We pay for most of it. And the markets, of course, have to pay a short fee. But we have all agreed on the methodology. So when we are looking at how we stand in the media in these markets, we have the same methodology. So I know what is happening in each market, and we can begin to discuss what needs to be done. Access to market presidents and other experts. Leverage the people in your company who are experts, make them communication ambassadors, which means a lot of training. It means you have to have a certain standing within the company. So, opportunities, it creates great opportunities for global stories. I call them gold nuggets, where you can go around and you can really find out what's going on from one country to the other. Another upside is, of course, for us, you have international career development. We are now moving around people around the world. People from Australia have now come to UK. UK people, a guy from Holland just went down to South Africa. The head of corporate comms in the USA now is a German. So you're able to develop people that we couldn't do before because it was a dotted line principle. So another issue. We all know as communicators, the toughest part is we are seen sometimes as only mouthpiece or the press spokesperson. If you are not part of the whole process, the strategic process within your company, you're going to lose out. We were very fortunate that my boss sits on the board, the executive board at BMW. I myself sit on 3 different committees that are run by other board members. All my team members are sitting in some other board committee meetings. So every week, we know what's going on within the company. We are part of the strategic process. We are not at the end of the value chain being told, you need to do this, this, and this. Be part of that. Sell it, work hard to get the right people, and suddenly what happens is they all think in our company like engineers, and they realize that we think like engineers. Next chart. This is quite simple. We have every day, 15 minutes in the center, we actually have someone who reads, the press comes in, we have an external from around the world giving us the press clippings. One person comes in at 8 o'clock, reads that, reviews it, in 15 minutes is given an update for everybody what to do. We have a newsroom once a week. Make sure you have the right people in that newsroom that are collecting and talking about what things are coming down the road the next 2 weeks. It's not really issue management, it's topic management every quarterly. And of course, once a year, we do a full planning moving forward. This is not rocket science, but this is very similar to how engineers and process thinkers work in a company like BMW. This has helped us to gain, I would say, advantages in the outside world. So I won't go into too many details, but that's how we are structured in a functional way around the world. As I said, I'm dealing with the corporate comms, the center of competency around the world, and a colleague of mine is dealing with governmental affairs all around the world, and we work together with all these issues. These are our board members. All the board members at BMW have an ambassador role. To put that in a context, we average between 500 to 700 interviews a year. Each of these persons, with other experts, are on the road. We are utilizing them, leveraging them. I've worked in other companies where only the CEO or the CFO was out there. No, at BMW, the concept is primus inter pares, the first amongst equals, and we utilize them. Another perspective, just to give you an idea, also internally, each of these board members has a function internally, and they know that. So, just to give you an idea, we have our own in-house speechwriters. We are doing about 300 to 400 speeches a year, which is about 1.2 per day. They know they are out there and working for us. It's part of the image. It helps us to get our reputation out there. It's a key here. This is something for the board to understand. We all know in a company today, globally, you want the license to enter a market, the license to operate in that market, and a license to stay in that market, which means you have to be talking constantly to everybody, not just one or two stakeholders, but as many stakeholders as possible. So that means you have to actually, now after the board, you have to actually go to a different level and look for experts who are willing to become communication ambassadors in your company, and then train them. And if you train them well, they definitely want to do this because they're proud of working for the BMW Group. And we have about 50, 60 ambassadors who are out there always and available for any kind of expert talks or TV interviews. This is crucial for us. And let's put the cards on the table. And it's nothing against us communicators. I always compare ourselves to the ass of a horse. Most of the people want to talk to the head of the horse. We are moving the body of the horse sometimes, but they say, I want to talk to the boss. I want to talk to an expert. And that means you have to train them beforehand before you go out in the public domain. So this is just some of the things that we are doing. Always constantly, some of the things are coming from our colleagues from around the world. I don't want to go in details. This is available for you later on. You can look at some of the initiatives, how we are dealing with all of the stakeholders moving forward and trying to create one voice. So a couple of highlights for you. Internally, we were dealing with sustainability, and you have to make sustainability fun. So what did we do? We made a web-based sustainability training for all the employees around the world. Basically, we realized, what do we want to do? So we created a game, and because BMW is a premium car company, we said we have to have some kind of premium company. We didn't want to have a car company. So we chose yachts, exclusive yachts, and we created this water world. And they could participate with one or two or three of their colleagues or alone. This was part of a training to get to know what does sustainability mean beyond just environmental friendliness. So there was always a Q&A, and you had sort of jokers, et cetera, but this is an idea of interactive where you get people involved in a topic. We actually travel around the second one, worldwide stakeholder dialogues. Get out there. We have 5 or 6 per annum, and we travel around the world. You do a cafe kind of event where you're moving around tables, talking to NGOs, analysts, investors, and listen to what they have to say. So usually we take all that information and we bring it back, and we feed it into the committee meetings as well as in the board, so they know what the outside world is expecting from us moving down the road. And most of them are not interested in what you did last week or last year. They want to know what's next, where are you going, what's the next move. That's really important. One thing I'm really proud about BMW, if you know anything about the company in Germany, one thing is interesting is that we have, in Munich alone, over 100 different countries working for the company. We actually have a factory in Munich where we produce our 3 and 4 series, and about 1,000 vehicles leave that factory every day. We have 50 different nations represented in that factory. So you can imagine the intercultural issues and sometimes topics that we have to deal with. So we created in 1997 an award promoting intercultural understanding. In 2010, I got a call from the United Nations representative and said, I was on an internet and I found that you have an award called the Intercultural Understanding Award. I said, yes, we do. Could you imagine working with the United Nations Alliance of Civilization in a partnership? I was at first a little bit surprised, but we have been now working together over the last 4 years with the UN, and it's a really inspiring project because once a year, Ban Ki-moon comes and actually offers this award to the 10 awardees, and we're quite proud of that. But it shows the value of reputation. It shows what you can do if you have ideas, and deal, as we all know, they have to be related and correlated to your company. Last but not least, we have a campaign which is called What's Next? As we all know, I would love to have the money and funds that my marketing colleagues have. Unfortunately, in the PR, we're on the other end of the stick. But I always say to my people, listen, it doesn't matter. You can still be creative with less. We then decided to do a print campaign, and then I said, okay, we can't have a TV spot. So we decided for each of the print motifs, we would have a short video where one of our employees would be an ambassador talking about that topic. And I have to say, the employees were totally enthusiastic. They think it's great because they are part of the communications. They represent us moving forward. So, yes, we are measuring ourselves once a year against the competitors on how are we seen as a corporate strength, what are our attributes. The attributes is this is done by our in-house strategy department. Once a year, they go around the world to 4 key markets and talking with opinion leaders and talking about BMW as a corporate citizenship compared to the leading competitors. As I said earlier, we are tracking the media. Unfortunately, you can see sometimes nothing goes well, but we are definitely in these key markets, which you see here below. That's about 65% of our sales. We can't go to every market, but we have the same methodology. This is done on a monthly basis. This is part of the discussion. How can we improve? What can we do? So, this machine doesn't seem to like me, so I won't go into that. These are some of the things that we get as feedbacks. When you get these accolades, it's not about just the team, it's about the whole company. But what it does, it helps you when you are talking to the board members. It gives them a feeling, okay, the communicators are really professional. They know what they're doing. They're doing the right things. Let's keep moving forward with them, and they have a role within the company. They are not just a mouthpiece of the company. So here's my last takeaway. Measure, 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 and analyze, analyze, improve, over and over again. And I know one of the things you'll say, well, I don't have money, I don't have this. Fight for that money. Start off, even if it's small, but you have to measure what you're doing, because then you cannot really change, and you can't win over the board, and you can't win over the rest of the company. Your organizational structure, really look at it, and if it's possible and you think it can be changed, do it. And try to do it that it actually enhances the key role of communication within the company at the end of the day. And this is my personal opinion. This is a tough call because you have to really be out there, capitalize on the company's experts and representatives, make them communication ambassadors. I know a lot of people say, whoa, 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 they are not capable. They are capable if you are seen as a consultant and not just as a spokesperson or a mouthpiece. That's it from my side. I think we have a few minutes for Q&A.